I can edit that later with your name, or just leave it generic if you want.
Yeah, I don't need any sort of clout or nothing. I'm just here just to talk.
So, like, what you just said is actually 100% right. There's probably actionable intelligence that he was planning something. He doesn't like to be in an area so exposed unless there's something important going down. So, I think if you talk to any of the people who are anti killing him, they would all agree that more than likely there's some important operations happening. That's not the reason though, like in and of itself, that people are saying he shouldn't have killed them. Have you heard so far reasons why people said that we shouldn't kill him? Like, do you know some of the reasons out there?
And no, I don't know why people would be against killing him.
Okay, so first, that's important too. So like, the main reason, but there's multiple ones out there, is that there's usually in foreign policy certain people who are like untouchable. um, do you know what I mean? But when I say like untouchable,
Yeah, I know what you mean.
so, as far as this person's position, are you familiar with like how high up he was with respect to everybody else?
Well, yeah, he was high up to the people in his country that were for his movements. Again, when they hate Americans, that there were definitely people that are for him, and even for previous like leaders that were later exposed that they were terrible. Like there are people that are for them, but that doesn't mean that's the right thing.
No, no, yeah, no. I totally get that, but I mean, like, let's say there's a list of the 100 most powerful people in Iran. Um, Number one would obviously be the supreme leader, right? Where would he be on that list?
I he would be very low on the list compared to a lot of other countries and leaders because, as you're able to see, we're able to just send an airstrike on them, and and they
Give me
don't
a number
really
so we can kind of get an idea. Like, 90,
a number.
90, 80. What do you think?
I'd say way below that, below the hundreds, compared
Like
to all of the other leaders in countries that we're allied with and
No,
countries
no,
that
no, no.
are
I'm
not threats.
saying just in Iran. As far as power that he wielded there, like his rank. So I'll give you an example. America, number one, would be the president, right? Most powerful person there. Number two, it's usually the order of succession of the presidency. The two would be the VP. Three would be the Speaker of the House. Like, where does this particular general rank in that same system? Number 20, 30, 40. Like, where do you think?
I mean, I could say this guy's like number six, but that doesn't mean anything because Iran just isn't a big threat. It's just like I could like say if this was early days and fucking there's a supposed high leader, but their whole population is low. Just because they're high in their government doesn't mean that they're a big threat to the world and to the advancements that the other countries have. They
Um,
just aren't a threat.
are they a threat to our allies? A good example would be like Israel.
Yeah, our allies, yeah, they're definitely a threat to our allies. That's why we took that stride to do what we had to do because we're trying to keep the corruption
So
that's
wait,
going
wait.
on in their country
So we don't get
there.
too far off. So like, even if I agree that maybe it's a little bit harder for them to strike us, which is kind of debatable because we're in the Straits of Hormuz. They basically own the Straits of Hormuz, right? The idea that Iran isn't such a threat that we need to kind of worry about to him. We'll get to that. Kind of answering my previous question, he's number two. So like right after the supreme leader, the head of the Quds Force, which is the like military arm of the government, that's where the government kind of gets all like the majority of its legitimacy from. Um, he is the head of that force. They're literally in the country isn't anyone more powerful than the supreme leader. So when I mentioned earlier about untouchable, he wasn't untouchable. It would not me. This is not my opinion. Ben Shapiro, right, very important right wing commentator, said killing him was like killing the head of the CIA, the head of the FBI, the Secretary of State, and the Vice President. So you can go look at Ben Shapiro's video on it, and he's 100% right. Like, that's the status of this particular person. He was literally an untouchable. Proof of his untouchability is that The things that the current Department of Defense is saying about what he was doing right now, they actually pale in comparison to things that he's done in 2000s, the 2010s. So my next question kind of would be like, because he was doing really bad things under Bush, why didn't Bush kill him? And because he did really worse things right now in 2012, 2013, 14, why didn't Obama kill? Like, why didn't they make that decision?
I think because a lot of the threats they were making weren't really specifically to the American people, and they weren't really taking a lot of actions. It was really a lot of stuff just going on within their country, within their civilization. And honestly, Obama and Bush weren't really the best presidents. They didn't really do a whole lot, and they just weren't really great leaders. They didn't really do the best thing for our country and kind of just sat back and just rode the wave. And like Trump is actually seeing like threat towards like the American people and the people that are in the military that are there in that country, um, trying to help their people because we do serve like aid to a lot of their civilians. And the fact that they started to make um, action towards our American people is the reason why Trump had to make that action.
So at that time, one of the reasons that we had, for instance, this was like the early 2010s. One of the reasons we did the Iran deal was because Israel was saying that Iran was right, within breakneck speed of getting a nuclear weapon, and that Israel feared that in under a year, Tel Aviv and other important cities in Israel could be wiped out. So the idea that Iran was less of a threat then is I would say is tough because at that time they had more nuclear stockpile, they had better missile technology. Um, what ended up happening with the nuclear deal, all of the enriched uranium that they had, like above 5%, all of that was taken away. They've been starting to rebuild, but they're still not at the levels that they were before. They're not even like halfway there, essentially where they were. So one of the onuses of the nuclear deal was to kind of like put an end and stop that. So as far as threat level, I mean, we can say now that they're a bigger threat now, but I think historically, if you go back, that's definitely not the case. There were multiple flashpoints. There was issues in Lebanon with Hezbollah that was coming up. So if you, I mean, you can double check. I'm certain on this, but if you would take my argument that they were more of a threat then, he was more powerful then. What are you saying? Basically, he wasn't taken out because Bush and Obama were cowardly.
Well, no. Well, the thing is that yeah, they could have been seen as a threat, and like they could have done that. But the way that a lot of war actions are taken nowadays, if they did go ahead and do that, that's technically a war crime because
So wait,
there's
why
no
isn't it a war crime now? Like, if it was then, why not now?
because they started charging our embassy and trying to kill American soldiers. They were actually going in, and that was their main goal. So they can't just see that he's a threat just because he has this stuff and he's not doing anything. Because if they just killed him, that's a war crime, and that wouldn't go well in the United Nations, and it wouldn't be allowed. So now that the fact that he was taking these actions and there's physical things that he was doing, then we were able to throw this airstrike because it's not just President Trump that says, "Oh, hey, we're going to do this airstrike." That request is to go through plenty of layers to actually send it forward. So since they were doing stuff now, they were allowed to send that airstrike. So it's not a war crime.
Um, so I'm sure that this could have, because as president, you're commander in chief. I'm sure that if Bush or Obama wanted to do it, I think you'd agree that they would have been done, right? Like, no one was going to stop them from doing it. And there's probably articles you can read about decisions that they made and did not make. Like, I don't think that the argument holds up that they just couldn't do it. Like, the president wasn't, the commander in chief is quite powerful. And they don't even go to the Gang of Eight with Congress to get permission. They just kind of, with foreign policy, kind of like do what they want. The honest answer, if you're curious, the reason neither president did it is because this particular person isn't untouchable. And are you familiar with like Rand Paul and Ron Paul's idea of blowback that they got from CIA?
No.
So Rand Paul and Ron Paul talk about this all the time. That every action obviously has reactions, and the reason why previous presidents didn't take out an untouchable person is usually when that happens, there's grave consequences. For the first time in like years and years, every level of Iranian government has said that they will strike out at America, not if but when. I've never seen that. For the last 20 years, I've never seen them at every level. There's sometimes whispers at the lower levels. The supreme leader, especially, will never come out and say it. But when the supreme leader, all his top generals, the sometimes even like the prime ministers will be like laid back. In this case, the prime minister, the foreign minister, Zarif, they're all on the same page because an untouchable was killed. They're number two. They all want like blood. Like they're all, and if honestly, if they don't get it, it would like their own power base would kind of dissolve. Um, do you? There's all sorts of other things I can get into too. There's iconography I can send you where he's now being made into a martyr. And militarily speaking, do you know why, for instance, we didn't bury Osama bin Laden's body?
Yes.
Yeah, so like making a martyr is a really terrible idea. You never want to do it. And this guy has essentially been made into a martyr. There's iconography I can send you with like Arabic writing on it. There's this lady at Johns Hopkins University. She wrote this great article about it. They're comparing him to the most famous martyr in history of all time. You do you know about Makkah with Muslims, like how they go to Hajj and stuff?
No, I don't.
So like you've probably heard of like the mecca of this or the mecca of that. Like the mecca of music is at like Woodstock or whatever. That comes from the city of Mecca. What that means is that that's somewhere that if Muslims have like the financial means, they're supposed to go there. They go around this like cube, and then they've kind of like met their religious requirements. Um, Tens of millions of people go. So there's a place actually that even more than that go. Let me. I don't want to get the stat wrong.
I
Let
think
me
we're getting
pull
a
it
little
up.
bit off topic because I think the topic was just did Trump do the right thing? And that I think that's just the main topic we need to figure
Oh,
out.
kind of where I was going with this is because this guy was killed, he was made into a martyr, and I have to kind of lay some background and to explain like who the biggest martyr is and how significant this is. So give me. I just wanted to get my numbers because I didn't want to make a mistake. So I'm
Okay.
going to the Wikipedia page for Arbaeen, and this is the largest gathering of people on Earth anywhere. It happens every year, and let me see if I can get some numbers on here.
While you're getting your numbers, I'm gonna throw in some. I think a lot of people are just are looking at like Trump is doing all of it and like it's all Trump's like idea for doing it. It's just like if it wasn't seen as the right thing, then like the people under Trump wouldn't have let that request go through. So like a president can request a lot of things to be done, but doesn't mean that it's going to go through and actually happen.
Okay, so per Wikipedia's list of largest peaceful gatherings, um, between 20 to 30 million people go see this martyr every year. Like, I'm not just saying it out of hyperbole, but like this martyr, his name's Hussein. You know, Obama's middle name is Hussein too. He's probably named after this person. He's considered like the world's like most famous martyr. There's iconography all over the Middle East right now comparing him to Hussein, and in at least the Shia world, because he's not as important for Sunnis. So I'm just saying this is something that Trump did that didn't have to be done. As far as popularity, I've seen media reports saying like he wasn't very popular, but all the polls and articles I read said that he was extremely popular. The reason he was popular in Iran is because he had nothing to do with the crackdowns in the country, because he only focused on foreign policy, right? He was seen as like defending the borders of the country. So anyone I think who says right now that he was unpopular in the country, I feel like that's there's very scant evidence to support that. Like most of the evidence I've read shows that he's extremely popular. You can look at the crowds that have gathered all across the world. I'm not again. We're not saying this is a good person. Like because we're all adults here. Like foreign policy is not about like good and bad people. It's just kind of like, hey, we killed this really important untouchable person. He's now being related to this martyr that 20 to 30 million people come see every single year. And Iran at every level, from the top to the middle to the bottom, is saying that they want revenge. Um, they're a threat, not necessarily too much to America, but to our allies like Israel there, and our troops there. Um, our previous presidents decided that it was a bad idea to kill this guy because he was an untouchable. Can you kind of see like logically why it would be a very bad idea to kill like an untouchable like that?
Well, I see how it might be a bad idea because Iran does have a number of people to back them up, but like just because he's a popular person in Iran, like I don't know if you've been outside the United States, but like Iran isn't really the most developed place, and it's just because people back someone up doesn't really mean that it's the right thing. It's just not it just doesn't mean that like they're a good person just because a lot of people support him, because like
No, no, no.
a lot of their militia was ran by the people, and like a lot of people not even signed with their military would help them and form like big not like yeah riots, pretty much big groups of people to just move forward and just have people with them. It just doesn't mean that they're doing the right thing. It's just because they have numbers and that they've just been shown that this is the way to do stuff, and that's just all they know.
Yeah, but like you agree with me, like if you're working in the State Department or whatnot, you're not thinking about like, is this a good guy or bad? You're thinking about like, is it in America's interests and should we kind of make a thing? Like I'm just trying to show
Well,
you how
if I was in the
it's.
military and I was in that exact embassy that was planted there, and all of a sudden there's people throwing fire bombs and people trying to come in here and try to kill us, like I think that's a pretty bad thing.
So you could kill the people that were going towards the embassy. You could go after those people, but by saying I'm going to go after the head of the snake, so to speak, the one who is quote unquote untouchable, um, like that in and of itself, it seems like a terrible idea just because of the blowback. So as far as Iran and how big they are and whatnot, per GDP, where do you think they rank in the 190 countries in the world? Like, what do you think they're top 5, top 10, 20, 30, 40, 50? Where do you think they are?
Um, Definitely not in the top 30.
So you're dead wrong. So they're 25. They are in the top 30. So
Yeah, they're in the top 30, but their advancements might not be
no, so yeah,
like
that's that's not
the
true. Yeah, no.
separation between like say um
Do you know about
14 to
Dubai?
13 is
You've
just
heard of Dubai, right?
well, of course.
Dubai is like a really rich country. Everyone wants to go there, right? It's not really a
Guys,
country. Dubai is a part of the country of the United Arab Emirates, the UAE as they call it. Um, so do you think, for instance, the United Arab Emirates is very rich? Like it seems very rich from what we've seen, right?
yeah, I mean they definitely are rich. They have a lot of what's it called um like fossil fuels and a lot of money to be made there, so they're
So
able
Iran
to
is ten
spend a lot of
percent
money.
richer.
Yeah, I don't know where you're getting these statistics,
2019 2019 numbers on GDP.
but
I
now
can
see
link you if you
if
want.
they
Like
are really are
they're
that up
huge,
there,
bro.
they would have just fucking bombed the shit out of that embassy. But if you looked at the way they're attacking, they're throwing homemade like fire bombs at them and using these shitty craft battering rams. Like they definitely aren't. They
So
definitely weren't
do
using
you,
their main
do you know
stock
why they
against
aren't though?
them.
Like why aren't they using, cuz I just showed that they have like big guns, right? Why aren't they using their big guns against the US military? Like why are they doing such a muted attack? And if you're not
Because
sure I
they're
can tell
scared. They
you.
don't want their country to be eliminated.
Exactly, exactly. They don't want the blowback, right? So in the same vein, when we go after the number 2 man of the 25th like richest country on earth, you could see how that would lead to a lot of blowback, right? Like, again, this isn't just my opinion. I'm giving you people on the right, like Ben Shapiro. He talked about how this person held positions that would be extremely like powerful here. Like, if tomorrow one person just took out, for instance, like the head of the Department of Defense,
For
forgetting all the other,
instance,
yeah, like it'd be terrible, right?
you're saying for instance though, the thing is that we have room to make action, and in all reality, if they did take out that full embassy and they did kill a bunch of U.S. Marines and stuff, they wouldn't really get far at all. It's like
They weren't going.
we
I
have
mean,
space to
they
move.
they weren't going to. We have 3,000 troops in Kuwait. Like that's kind of like a red herring because that was never gonna happen. Like you just said, they have these guns. They have, why didn't they use them? Like that was never going to happen. It was a bid to apply pressure, and as you saw, it wasn't really their main force that was doing it. It was their proxies. So like in Lebanon, they have a proxy of Hezbollah, and they have proxies all over, right? So they have proxies in Iraq too. The general that was killed with General Soleimani, he was a proxy. He was part of the Iraqi militia armies. He was a general there. So I mean, this idea that either we kill him or the embassy is gone. That wasn't honestly going to happen. Like everyone knows, all the people in the military know too. We had enough troops. Like the embassy was never in threat of being on. Now, to get to your
Hmm.
original point of was he a bad man? Yes. Was he planning bad things? Yes, but he's been this. This isn't, again, just my take. He's been planning bad things for,
Planning,
yeah, planning.
but he took action this time.
No,
He's
no,
been doing stuff.
he's been taking action. Is what I'm saying. He's been doing
But
worse things now.
before that, it wasn't really specifically towards they weren't war crimes to actually go ahead and attack him. He was planning and doing terrible things, but he wasn't actually like making threats towards American people.
So
Once you say make threats towards American people, that's where it's just can't slide.
I mean, imagine Argentina or Austria or Belgium made threats against America, right? And they're in the same.
Yeah, that's not good.
No,
That's the thing is that you're saying imagine because they're not, and
no, but
they're a bit smarter than that.
if they did, would it be okay to kill Belgium's, second highest person, their vice president? Would that be okay? What
If
would
they're
happen?
maybe
No, no,
not
no.
the vice
Just
president, but maybe the leader of their
let's answer
military.
one question. If we killed the, would it be okay to kill Austria's vice president in the same instance? Yes or no?
Yes, if they were trying to kill American people and were storming an American set embassy in the country, then yes. But we see it in those countries, we provide a lot of military aid and give them a lot of stuff, and we have deals with those countries, and
You do
they.
see, if we did that to like Austria, that would be like an
But
act of war, right?
if
No,
if though, that's the
what?
thing though. You're saying if because the thing is, we did this to Iran, and
So,
people are saying this could be a World War III, but
but
our military's come to such an advancement that a World War III wouldn't last long. There wouldn't
well,
be
I
sort of
didn't
on
choose
foot
random
combat.
countries. I chose those countries because they're as big, or in Austria's case, they're smaller than Iran. So I'm trying to show you the, like the potential catastrophe
Yeah,
of our decision. Like this is, I'm not saying that tomorrow America's going to get invaded. Like no one's saying that. I'm just saying that our allies in the region, our friends abroad, our military abroad, they're all at risk because it's akin to killing Austria's VP or Belgium's VP.
yeah.
These are
Those
countries
countries
that are just as
have different like things that they need to take care of right now. They're not
no,
really focused on the same stuff that Iran was focused on because
no.
obviously
Do
they were trying to
do you
do
know
some
why I
different.
picked those? I just said why. Do you remember why I picked those
Yes.
countries?
Yeah.
So
Yes.
why did I pick them?
You said you picked them because they're in the same situation as Iran. They're
No, no,
like
they're
doing the same shit.
like economically, they're the same or smaller economies. Like these are not. We're not talking about like tiny little countries like Angola, Croatia, like Bolivia. We're talking about like giants. Like the first thing you said is it wasn't Iran's not top 30, and then immediately like it may have taken you aback to know that they are like they're a huge world power. People don't seem to understand that. You can't
I
just
mean,
do
I
that to a
don't.
world power.
I mean, we'll see in the next few months if they're really going to do something. But for now, it does not seem like they're a threat or they're or like going to do anything where it's going to be a threat. Because
When we beat
yeah,
World War II, when we won World War II, our economy was amazing, right? We beat the Japanese. We did crazy, right? Our economy in World War II was weaker than Iran's economy is now.
and you know why? Because there was a lot of funds that had to be made because a lot of people, a lot of weapons, and a lot of like raw materials were being used. That's why the fucking economy was going down the shitter because a lot of women were taking men's jobs because they weren't there, and a lot of the men's jobs were labor jobs to fund the military and make products for the military. So that's why a lot of our money was being fucking thrown into it. World War II was a whole different thing because our advancements were nowhere near the way they are today.
No,
So that's
they
just
aren't.
nothing
But
to
like,
compare to.
I'm trying to say, like, a country wouldn't want to mess with World War II America. Like World War II America was kick ass, right? Like even by
We're
today's,
way more kick-ass right now. Way more
World
kick-ass.
War II America could still beat 90% of the countries today, right? Like you probably agree to that, right?
Because of the numbers, yeah. Because we had allies, numbers were
No, no,
big.
no. Forget allies. Like just taking on Japan on our own, like just the stuff we did on our own. Like World War II
Japan,
America,
we didn't go onto Japan's land. We kind of just bombed them, and they kind of just stopped talking.
I just meant like most countries couldn't sustain a naval war like we did against Japan. Like that was a thing of like crazy sophisticated logistics like that. Most countries
Well, it
can't
wasn't
handle
a
that.
naval war with Japan. Japan, we kind of did an airstrike on them, but the airstrike, the bombs used, obviously you know what kind of bomb they used. The naval strike. If we used a lot of naval wear on a country, it's definitely I believe it's the UK would definitely be a big part of that because their naval uh
So like in the
navy is like
military,
top in the country in
you
the world.
can't
I mean.
the problem with air power in the military, and a lot of people make fun of air power for this reason. You can't hold an island like Midway or any of the other big islands that we fought for, Okinawa. You can't hold them without ground troops. So all military actions, even till today, you need ground troops to hold and maintain land. Air power is
Yeah.
good for like weakening a position, but air power can't take a position. Like we can't take an island with air power, right? So it was 100% our military that let our troops get there and get there safely. The air power wasn't insignificant; it was super important. But it was our naval force that really won the day. In some instances, because the Japanese had the people who were coming in with their planes, kamikazing and stuff. Some people could argue like that level of air power in some instances was superior, but really our naval blockades, our logistics, our intelligence. But anyways, the whole point of that is American World War II was kick ass and could today kick. Like if you could pull it from the past and bring it to today, you would not be surprised if you kick 90% of the world's countries' butts right today.
But well, yeah, because in World War II, there were people on ground with weapons in that country protecting fronts. They were protecting fronts of land, and that's why we were pushing back fronts of land. And just the fact that if we did go through like Iran like that, we'd simply just be moving through and killing supposed innocent civilians for no reason because there's no one holding back a front. It's just a piece of land that people are in, and we'd simply be committing a war crime by just going through the country and just killing people. It's
So, so
no threat like that as it was then.
so Iran today, I'm saying, matches World War II America. Like that's how powerful their military is. Like, okay, so
That
wait,
is not that much to say.
just that, for instance. Okay, let's talk about troops, right? Troop numbers, active military, reserve military. Let's just forget the reserves. Let's just talk about active military. Where do you think Iran is in the world? Top 20, 30, 40, 10, 5, what? When it
I
comes to
don't
active
I
military.
don't really care about the numbers in the world about active military because no matter what, like if they did have ground troops like we did in World War II, it's just it
So wait,
doesn't.
wait. You
That's
don't.
weak.
To
That's actually
you,
weak
wait, wait.
to
The
compare
wait.
it
Are
to
you
the U.S.
you're
ground
saying
troops.
the military strength of a country doesn't matter to if we're gonna kill its second
No,
most
no, no, no,
powerful
no.
that
Numbers,
that
the
doesn't
numbers
seem.
though, ranking it though from top to bottom because that space from 26 to 25 could just fucking change. There's just a whole different meaning. Just because it's a number that you're a higher number doesn't mean that
So wait,
you're
if
just
a
better.
country only has like 1,000 troops, that country is you can't say it's weaker than a country with like 100,000 troops. Like
Yes.
you can't say that.
Because it matters what weapons they have to use with those 1,000 troops.
Yeah,
Say
yeah, but
say if
we
they had
force
10,000 troops in
multipliers. Yeah,
Iran
yeah,
and we had
but
100 troops in the
but I
U.S.,
just
but we had all these fighter jets and all these high powerful
yeah,
missiles
yeah.
and all these
So
ways not to touch us, we could easily beat them. So
so
to say that like they compared to the World War II America, that's kind of weak because nowadays we have a lot more like advancements in weapons and we just be able to take out those people without as many casualties as we did in that time.
so to you, what is an acceptable number of casualties?
Um, and acceptable. I mean, I wish for there to be zero casualties. I don't
Yeah,
know
yeah.
if there's a such thing as an
Because
acceptable.
you just said like we could take them out with not many casualties, so it seems like you're okay with the amount. But like, what
No,
is? I don't really
no,
know
no.
what
I
that
said we
number
could take them
is.
out with less troops, but with higher military power, like with better weaponry. So
But
like we could have less troops but better weaponry, and they could have more troops with weaker weaponry, but we could still take them out. That's the thing. Americans' weaponry and our stockpile is fucking number one in the whole world,
yeah, but
without
do you
counting the
think
allies.
the 25th richest country in the world doesn't have force multipliers? Like they don't have
Yeah,
jets,
but
they don't have bomb. Like, do you think they just don't have that some of the stuff that we have? I'm not
no,
saying
no,
that
no.
they can beat us. Like the argument you're kind of setting up is
They
like,
do.
dude, we're gonna beat them like you've already won. Like
No, no, no.
no one's saying that they're gonna beat us. I'm just trying to show you. I'm trying to like allow you to see what it is that we kind of messed with to show you scale. Right? Do you kind of see what I'm doing?
Yeah, I see what you're doing. See now they definitely could buy these things and make these things, but the field of work in that country doesn't really have that much space to make as the quantity that we have in the US, they have nowhere near the amount to make that many. So yeah, they could have that stockpile and those that weaponry, but if they're really going to use it, then the US would just take out those jets and those bombs that they have if they really started using them. So like it's just yeah, they could have some of them, but like
Wait,
they
you
might not
mean
be the same.
if they took their fighter jets right now and started using them, that there
Mm.
wouldn't be American and Israeli casual. Like, I don't know what you're saying. It's kind of sounds like we'd take them out, but I think you're forgetting like we would. But then how many casualties would there be? It seems like you're missing a number in the
I'll
calculation.
say the casualties. They just deployed like what was it like 1,000 or 3,000 troops there. Uh, so if they did take out that whole embassy, that would be about like fucking 4,000 people taken out. But if they did do that, then I mean that would kind of be like just the end of it in our reality because like say they have 100 fighter jets, we'll have 100,000 fighter jets. So like it
Well,
just
I
doesn't
mean
work for them.
we don't have 100,000 fighter jets, but
I'm just that's just a rough
to
number,
give you
just to
more
show you it.
of a sense of like their number of reserve and just forgetting reserve, they're just their active military. Um, you don't I like when I asked you, you didn't seem to kind of want to guess, but I'm assuming you might think they're in the 20s and 30s. They're
Because
actually
I'm
in the
not gonna guess without knowing the actual number.
well, the good thing about guessing is it kind of gives you a frame. It gives you something. It lets you kind of see like, oh, where am I in my thinking right now? If I had to guess, and these like subconscious ideas, they affect decision making, right? So like me, I thought like before I looked into this, maybe a decade ago, if you asked me, I would have said, oh, maybe they're in the top 30, 40, 50, what? But they're actually in the top 10. So Again, if you want to look it up right now, you can look up list of countries by number of military and paramilitary personnel. Number one is China with about 2 million. Number two is India with about 1.5 million. America's there with almost 1.5 million. North Korea's there with 1.2. Then it's Russia, Pakistan, South Korea, and then Iran is there with about 500,000. So Iran has more active military, not reserve, than Vietnam, Egypt, Myanmar, Indonesia, Thailand, Turkey. Saudi Arabia has like about 250,000, but they have a lot of force multipliers that we've kind of sold them, so they don't really need
Yeah.
too much more. As far as reserve, and my whole point is like this would like a lot of people don't know, but like this would not be like Iraq. Iraq was never in the top 30 militarily or economically. Like Iraq was always kind of like a child, right? And it was still a hard war, but if you look at the total cost, the $3 trillion, how many people died, like it could be considered a more mid-level war. This type of war, if we actually did go down this path, would just be obscenely unimaginable. It's
I
why
mean,
people
look at
keep
where
saying
Iran
things
is
like
on
World
the
War
map.
Three.
Let's look at where they are. They are surrounded. So if they really wanted to take it to that level, America would have all these other countries like on their
Wait,
back.
who would join them? Like when the battle started, obviously Israel would be there, right? Like Israel's right in the thick of things, but
Turkey,
so that's the thing.
India.
Turkey isn't an enemy of Iran's. I don't know why you think
But
that
but
that's
they're
the
but they're
case.
on the border of them. So if Iran became a threat to their country and to expanding
No,
on their
but
country, and
Iran and Turkey don't have bad ties, so
yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah,
another
but
geopolitical thing. So Turkey would actually not invade Iran, and like they would stay out of it more than likely. Saudi
see, if
Arabia would.
America engages in a war, Turkey's on their backs. Turkey is kind of going to go with America because Turkey would want to end
Did you
that
not
threat.
see what Turkey just did to our troops? They gave Trump an ultimatum and said, either you and your troops leave within the next 24 hours, or they will die. Like President Erdogan just said that Trump literally. So there's two things Trump could have said, right? Trump could have said, "I dare you, bitch. You bring them, and you'll have hell to pay." Or Trump could have been like, "Okay, we'll leave," or try to negotiate, right? Trump gave in and was said, "Fine, take it. It's not worth the hassle," and he withdrew all forces. So when you say like, I don't think you understand the relationship between Turkey, America, and Iran.
Well, like I'm saying
Like
if
that
I
just
like say the
happened.
World War III thing like suppose like a war goes on, like
Like Turkey is
all these
not there
countries
fighting
around
Iran.
there are not gonna just like let that be. Like
Turkey would
they'd
be
see it
neutral.
as it being a threat, and we definitely try to get them with us. That's the thing.
Yeah, yeah,
And
but
if it became
we
that big of
already
a threat, they
tried.
would
We just tried and failed. We
because
told
it's
Turk
not that big. Because it's not that big yet.
do you know how many active military personnel people I spoke with who said they were very pissed that they have friends and family in Syria who they were part of the troops there, or they knew people that were there. There weren't that many. I think there was like 1 or 200 people that were there, but that they were pissed as heck because those 1 or 200 that were there, for them to remain there, there were thousands that came in as support and took that land from ISIS and from other crazy characters. That were in the region. So I'm just saying the military, and you can read articles about this too. They were pissed. So when Turkey said we're coming, like we didn't convince them. Like so, this idea that we would convince them later on, like we already have a bad track record when it comes to that. That's not going to happen. That wouldn't happen.
But like right now, the scale of war is not big. I'm saying if the scale of war became massive, then not even countries just bordering Iran, a lot of other countries would have to come in because we have allies and we have like
Could
just
you see
places
how
of war.
someone could listen to you and think, man, this guy, this supreme guy, he really wants war. Like it doesn't, like from the way you're kind of talking, it seems like you're looking for reasons to fight instead of
Now,
reasons to de-escalate or have diplomacy. Like it's kind of as if you're all in on this let's fuck them up thing, like
yeah, I am because see the thing is if we let this thing just sit there and just go, then Iran will push forward through its country, and then once they eliminate what they want to eliminate, they're just gonna want more power. Like,
So
what do you
you were
what
always
do you
pro war with Iran, anyways. This so,
Mm,
hence this is why it doesn't
no
matter. That's what you're
war.
saying.
I'm pro like segregating this war to staying in Iran to keep what they're
Like
doing and stop what
five,
they're doing
dude,
in
five
Iran.
seconds ago you said like they were going to be doing what they're doing anyways. We had to do this, and now you're saying no. I'm not pro war. I'm. It's just it's kind of like jump.
No,
I
pro
can't really
war
pin
is
you to
boots on
anything.
ground, like shooting people down, like trying to hold off a front. I'm saying that the reason why we're doing this is to stop this war from happening and to keep it secluded in there. Because if we just let it go, it's just gonna go all out and it's just gonna be bad. So doing that strike, I believe in my head that it's keeping it down to a lower level and keeping things more like hostile. So people in Iran aren't wanting to keep moving forward. They're gonna see that their troops are just gonna keep falling and that they're just gonna end up giving up and they're just not gonna go forward with an all-out war.
So let me give an alternative historical example of Egypt. Are you aware that at one point, not very long ago, Egypt invaded Israel?
Yes, but that's not this topic.
It's not, but I'm trying to like use that as a kind of an example for this topic because like usually when it
Yeah,
comes to
but they're
war,
not taking over. They're not taking over the country and trying to change the borders of this country. They're not trying to do
let
anything
me
like that.
make my point because like that's not what I was trying to say, but like my point, I'll get to my point, but essentially when Egypt tried that, right? Things didn't work out. It wasn't really good. They lost the Sinai Peninsula. Israel took that over. The whole point of that is today the relationship between Israel and Egypt is very very good. They don't have a bad relationship. Now, if I take like Supreme, if I kind of take your perspective on, hey, this had to happen. We had to go through. We had to kill the second most powerful person. We had to escalate. I kind of am giving the history of Egypt to show that there's an alternative path that was taken, and today through diplomacy, Egypt is not at Israel's throats. If anything,
Yeah,
they're like Israel has a lot of things to worry about. Israel doesn't worry about Egypt. Egypt is not keeping them up at night and doesn't bother
yeah.
them and is not aggressive. So like the whole point of that is there were other options outside of killing the second most powerful person of the 25th largest economy with the seventh largest military. Could you see how that's a stupid idea? Just an
No,
inanely stupid idea.
because when you're comparing those other countries, like you don't understand like these people's mindsets on Americans and just America, they don't like us. Even
Okay,
before we
so
made this
then that
airstrike, they just don't like
have you
Americans.
watched
Even if we try to make an ally with them, they just simply do not like
I've watched
Americans.
like half dozen different people from different countries, not just Americans, but like Canadians, Austrians, but definitely Americans, right? Go to Iran and speak with them and then tell them that they're from America. Have you seen videos like that?
Well, see, they probably speak with them in their language and not in
No, no, they
English.
don't. They speak with them in English. They don't know any Farsi. So they speak with them in
Or who are
English.
they speaking with?
They're speaking with
Civilians?
yeah, with just civilians on the street.
Yes, because there are civilians in there that see that Americans are doing a good thing and that like they want to live in a world where they don't have to
So
hear stuff out their windows and they could just sleep in their house. But they
if
just
you
there
want,
are other
I'll
civilians
show
that
you
are fully against
I'll
like
show no, so I'll show you videos. There's these same people. They've gone to trips to India and other places, right? I can show you the videos if you want. But in general, anyone who says that the Iranian people as a whole have a negative opinion of America, something like 70% of Iran's population is under 35, and when you poll that 70%, even some of the 30%, the vast majority of them have a very positive opinion of America. They ingest American media, they wear American clothing and brands, they speak positively of America. So when I hear that, right away a flag goes up because I'm like, oh, this guy probably hasn't really watched those videos, speaking to those people, and like there are countries with negative opinions towards America. I'm not saying that doesn't exist, but like Iran isn't one of them. This one dude, he goes around the world, just traveling and stuff. When he was in India, people wouldn't like, well, after they tried to kind of bribe him and steal him out of money, once that didn't occur, they like could care less about him. They weren't hospitable. They were very rude. He was in different cities, and obviously different cities in India are different, right? But my point being, like, if you look at all his 20, 30 vlogs in Iran, the people were very welcoming, food left and right. He only knew how to speak English. He couldn't speak Farsi.
I
Um,
think that's for the cameras, honestly. Like,
but it's not
there's a
one
lot of stuff
person.
that doesn't happen
There's
on camera.
dozens of, bro, there's dozens of people who've done the same thing, and then they go to one country and they have a bad experience and they share it, but then they go to, like, they have no, these people are not political. They don't talk about politics. They go to like the South America, they go to like random places in Africa, right? They'll go to like a random African country like Zimbabwe.
A
So
lot of them don't speak English, and a lot of them won't talk to them on camera, so they can't even get a lot of their opinions. So,
that's
like,
not
the fact to
true.
say that you
So
get a
again,
few of them
to
if
say
they're
that
with
to say
America
that
is
most
just
people
doesn't really fit in.
to say that most people in Iran also don't speak English, like there's a very large English speaking population there. So even that like just shows you, I just think your ideas about Iran just don't match with the facts. Is kind of the thing. Their
No, but
GDP,
like
their
them
military
showing the
numbers.
way that their views are on camera and trying to show that they're all for the people, like that could all be a front. That could just all be a
Bro,
lie just
these
to
are
get
just
people
YouTube
for them.
vloggers.
And I think that just what my message needs to
What's
be put forward is that this airstrike was put forward to withstand expanding force that Iran is putting on because it's like if the US did nothing, then these people would have just kept moving forward and they would have been killing American people that want to come home back to the United States. And we just simply wouldn't do anything. We wouldn't take any military force. We just let it happen. And people would end up saying that it's a terrible thing that we didn't do it. But
do you
like the
know what
fact that we take early action right now is honestly the best thing that we could do to help
do you know what
suppress the issue. And it's 10:30 right now. We need to wrap this up, so I'll let you go real quick, and then I'll say something else, and then you'll say something else, and then we'll end it right there. So
Okay,
go ahead.
so just have you heard of Wahhabism?
Wahhabism, yes. What about it?
What do you know about Wahhabism?
Just what about it?
Like give me a quick summary.
Just what about it?
Like what
What are
is
you
it?
gonna
Like
say about it?
give me a quick definition. I
I
don't know
don't
what
really.
you know about it.
No, but what about it does this matter?
Like if I was a teacher and there was a test and I said give me a summary of Wahhabism, what would you write?
But see, I'm not your student, so what about it
So
relates to
bro,
this
that
issue?
you have no idea what Wahhabism is. Like you can't even give
No,
me a summary.
I don't have to speak on my knowledge about it. Just what about it?
Because you obviously don't know about it.
You're
Just
assuming. So what
so
about it?
I mean, moving onwards, you know about like ISIS and Al Qaeda and Al Nusra Front, maybe or maybe not, right? Um, so those types of people, how did they feel about Iran? Like, are they natural allies?
How did they feel
Do,
about what your mic cut out?
how are they? How do they like? Are they natural allies? How do they feel about Iran? How does Iran interact with ISIS, Al Nusra, Al Qaeda? Like, how do they mesh, so to speak?
That may be stuff all under the table and stuff that we do not know. There's nothing really to look up and read about because that's all stuff that just could be under the table and we have no fucking clue
So
about.
see, that in and of itself is another admission of how like little you understand Middle East politics, because Iran is a staunch enemy of Al Qaeda, Saudi, like all the different forms of Wahhabism that connect with Al Nusra Front, with ISIS. One of ISIS's largest killers was actually the Al Quds force that this guy was the general of. When his armies would come in, you know about the Kurds in northern Iraq. The Kurds in northern Iraq begged the Al Quds force to come and protect the Peshmerga when ISIS was coming in, and taking over large swaths of land in Iraq. The Al Quds force came in assisted the Peshmerga. This is before America came in, right? And because of them allying together, the Kurds with the Peshmerga and the Al Quds force, they were able to push back ISIS. At no point, if ISIS ever finds a Shia, which is a person of a certain sect of Islam, if ISIS ever finds them, or an Iranian, or they would kill them immediately. ISIS and Al Qaeda and Al Nusra, they're staunch opponents of Iran. Iran, in a lot of senses, was helping stabilize the Middle East
That's good. Yeah.
by killing the Wahhabis. So by killing this person, ISIS sleeps better at night, and we did that.
But see, ISIS
We did that.
has been brought down a lot in
Thanks
the
to, in
past year.
large part, thanks to him and his efforts in
But
that region.
But see, that's a good thing. Good thing he did that. But see, where I'm looking at the bigger picture to where Iran is threatening our soldiers and our people, and that's just not acceptable. So that's good that they did that. That was in the past, but now this
No,
is
no,
a
no, no, no.
whole
That was in the
different thing.
present. He was even today. Like again,
Yes.
there. This is the thing. When it comes to foreign policy, it's just kind of wrap things up. It's like a fourth grader's mentality to think in terms of he's a good guy, bad guy. This like these people are very complex. They do very terrible things and they do very good things in other ways, right? But I think I kind of went over my case of why we shouldn't kill an untouchable like this and some of the possible negative ramifications. Like
Yeah, I
that.
definitely understand the possible negativities about how they may we may be going back and forth to them killing our people, us killing them their people. Like it could just be a back and forth thing. I 100% understand that. But the thing is that before any of that actually happened, we took a strike on their leader and just eliminated him. So that just kind of suppressed their people for now. And right now, they're just sitting back. They may be planning something. They definitely are planning something, but it suppressed them for now. And it's just we'll see what happens. But it
All
was
right, man.
definitely a good thing.
I gave you the last word. I wanted you to have it, but yeah, thank you so much. It was a good conversation we had. I think like we agree about a lot there, and hopefully like I gave you some perspectives that maybe were interesting, and obviously like I learned some things from you that were interesting too. So yeah, thank you for your time, man.
Yeah, definitely, dude. Thank you for actually sitting here and talking with me. A lot of people do not like talking about this stuff and they get triggered and just walk away.
Yeah, I don't like when people get like too emotional like when you're having a conversation. I'm the same way, dude. All right.